In the quiet theater of human interaction, we are all actors playing a part. We project confidence when we feel fear. We offer a smile when we harbor doubt. Every conversation is a delicate dance, a negotiation of perception and reality. But what if you held the script? What if you knew the one line that could shift the entire performance in your favor? What if I told you, there's a simple phrase, a specific sequence of words, that acts as a key that doesn't just knock on the door of someone's trust, but unlocks it instantly. Imagine bypassing the years of effort, the trial and error, the painstaking process of building rapport. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding a fundamental, yet overlooked mechanism of the human psyche. This knowledge is a ghost in our society. It exists in the shadows, practiced by the few who have stumbled upon its power, but almost nobody talks about it openly. Why? Because it fundamentally alters the balance of social dynamics. It gives an edge to those who possess it, an invisible advantage in every room they enter, every deal they negotiate, every relationship they form. This isn't a cheap trick or a hollow platitude. It's a psychological instrument of profound influence, grounded in the very wiring of how we connect with one another. The information you are about to receive is potent. It's a tool, and like any tool, its impact depends entirely on the intention of the person wielding it. So, a warning is necessary. Use it with purpose. Use it with awareness. Stay until the end. Don't skip ahead. The context is as important as the phrase itself. Because this will do more than just give you a new line to say. It will permanently recalibrate your perception. It will change how you see people forever. You will begin to see the invisible strings that guide our interactions, the hidden currents beneath the surface of every conversation. The game is already being played all around you. The only question is whether you will remain a pawn, moved by forces you don't understand, or if you will finally learn the rules of engagement. The choice begins now. Every single day, people are influencing you. In conversations, in relationships, online. But here's the scary part. Most of the time, you don't even notice it. People trust what feels familiar. When someone subtly copies your body language, your brain thinks, this person is like me, and instantly, you feel comfortable. Silence is powerful. Say something. And then pause. Most people can't handle silence, so they start talking and reveal more than they should. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. This costs $100, or that's only $3 a day. Same thing, different impact. A few years ago, I found myself in a situation that would fundamentally change how I navigate conflict. It wasn't a boardroom or a high-stakes negotiation, but a simple, personal interaction that spiraled out of control. The memory is still vivid, etched in sharp, high-contrast detail, a stark reminder of how quickly communication can break down. It began, as these things often do, with a simple misunderstanding that was left to fester, growing into something much larger and more volatile. I was in a heated conversation. The air in the room was thick with unspoken grievances, and every word spoken was like a spark threatening to ignite a firestorm. The discussion had escalated rapidly, the volume rising with each volley. What started as a disagreement had morphed into a battle of wills, a tense standoff where neither side was willing to concede an inch of ground. The space between us felt charged, electric with animosity. The other person was angry, but that word feels too simple, too clean to describe the storm I was witnessing. It was a raw, visceral anger that radiated from them in waves. Really angry. Their face was a mask of fury, their jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles straining. Their voice, which was usually measured, had become sharp and brittle, cracking under the strain of the emotion pouring out. Every accusation felt like a physical blow, and I could feel my own body tensing in response, my fight-or-flight instinct screaming at me to retaliate, to push back with equal force. My first, primal instinct was to defend myself, to build a fortress of justifications and counter-arguments. My mind was racing, cataloging every point I could use to dismantle their position, to prove my own righteousness. I wanted to interrupt, to shout over them, to make them see how wrong they were, how unfair their accusations felt. The words were right there, on the tip of my tongue, a bitter retort ready to be launched. But instead, in that split second before the dam of my own anger broke, a different thought surfaced. A lesson I had been studying, a technique I had read about but never truly tested under fire. It was a gamble. It felt counterintuitive, like lowering my shield in the middle of a sword fight. I took a slow, deliberate breath, forcing my own adrenaline to subside. And I said, "I understand why you feel that way." I didn't say I agreed. I didn't apologize or concede my position. I simply validated their emotion. I offered a bridge, not a surrender. Then I stayed silent. This was the hardest part. The silence that followed was deafening, a vacuum where the storm had just been raging. Every fiber of my being wanted to fill that void, to explain what I meant, to qualify my statement. But I held back, trusting the process. I simply held their gaze, not with defiance, but with quiet attention. And suddenly, something shifted. It wasn't a dramatic cinematic moment. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. A flicker in their eyes, a slight release of the tension in their shoulders. Everything changed. The aggressive energy that had been flooding the room began to recede. The person who had been my adversary just moments before was now just a person. A person in pain who had been flailing, desperate to be heard. They calmed down. Their breathing slowed. The rigid posture softened. The anger, having been acknowledged, no longer had a reason to fight. It had been seen, and that was all it needed. The validation had disarmed them completely. In that moment, I learned a profound lesson. People don't want to be right. They want to be understood. Their anger wasn't about the facts of the argument. It was a desperate signal for validation. By acknowledging their feelings without judgment, I gave them what they were truly seeking. Not victory, but connection. People want what they can't have. If something feels rare, it becomes more valuable. That's why last chance works. And yes, even in relationships. Tactile board detail, intense, shallow focus, macro eye motif visible nearby. Here's something crazy. If you give people a reason, they're more likely to say yes, even if the reason is weak, because your brain loves explanations. Once someone says yes, they're more likely to say yes again. People hate being inconsistent, and that can be used to influence decisions. Throughout our journey, we've explored the hidden mechanics of influence, the subtle levers that shift perception. We've seen how silence can speak volumes, how mirroring builds invisible bridges, and how framing can construct a reality of your choosing. Each is a powerful tool, but there is one phrase that acts as a master key, unlocking a level of trust that bypasses logic and reason. Do you remember the phrase I mentioned at the very beginning? The one that holds a unique, almost hypnotic power over the human psyche. It's time to bring it out of the shadows. The phrase is simple, disarming, and profoundly effective. Here it is. I'm going to be honest with you. Utter these words and watch the walls come down. This phrase instantly increases trust. It's a declaration of vulnerability, a signal that you are about to share something confidential, something real. It makes the listener feel chosen, as if they are being brought into an inner circle. It preemptively neutralizes skepticism by framing what follows as a moment of pure candor. The true power of this statement is that its effect is immediate, even if there's no proof to back up your words. It operates on an emotional, subconscious level. It doesn't ask for belief, it assumes it. By prefacing your message with an admission of honesty, you make it psychologically difficult for the other person to question your sincerity without appearing cynical or distrustful themselves. It's a strategic move that positions you as the arbiter of truth in the conversation. A powerful piece of psychological leverage. Now you know. These techniques are used every day. Now you have a choice. Ignore them or understand them.